All right. All right. Hope you all can hear me. Let me pull this down a little bit. Okay, cool. Yeah, you know I'm short. All right, look, folks at Black Power Media. This is Jackie Lukeman. I'm out here. Baba and I are out here in front of the U.S. State Department. We're out here in solidarity with Palestinian people. We are protesting in front of the U.S. State Department, protesting the ongoing aggression, the genocide right before our eyes of the Palestinian people. So we said we were coming out here today. Here we are. We got here as soon as we were done broadcasting on By Any Means Necessary. So there are already a lot of people out here. I'm going to stop editorializing, and I want you to hear and see the people out here, Palestinians, and people who are out here in solidarity with Palestinians. So let's take a look.
Free, free Palestine! 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 Stop fucking terrorists! They're killing our kids, man! Watching sense enough to change! Gaza's the most densely populated area in the world. Coward. Free Palestine. Free Palestine, man.
I hope you all can see that there are people out here, clearly Palestinians. When we came up in our lift, this brother was out here literally spitting facts about what is going on in Gaza, in Palestine, and he said something that I think was really striking to me. He said his grandmother is older than the state of Israel. So I'm hoping that we can get a chance to talk to him. If he's willing to talk to you, because I would rather they tell the story than we do. So I'm going to see if we can go over and talk to this brother and see if he'd be willing to talk to us. Hey, my brother. We're here with Black Power Media, and we're here in solidarity with you. When we came up, we heard you spitting back to people. Would you mind telling people who are watching while you're out here what's going on?
Absolutely. So we've just been occupied for too long, right? They're literally taking people's homes and putting Jewish settlers in there, right in their face. Okay, they'll just take your home, imagine, and just put people in your home and say this is their home now, and just take it. They're killing kids. One mom lost 4 children, man. One mom. A father died the same day his baby was born. That baby has to share that every single year now. She has to share that birthday. It's not okay. They're killing children, and they're being funded by the U.S. It has to stop, man.
Yeah,
we don't want war. We want freedom.
Right.
I told my mom, Biden started funding us again. She said, we don't want their funds. Just let us be free and watch how we grow.
There you
That's
go.
what they're scared of. They don't want us to grow, man.
That's right. That's right.
Occupation is for a small period of time, man.
That's right.
We are not the violent ones.
Right.
The only thing that made the news is Hamas shooting off fireworks. That's the only thing. That's what we got to do to make the news.
Right.
It's not okay, man.
That's
It's
right.
not okay.
When we came up, when we rode up in our lift, we heard you say that your grandmother is older than the state of Israel.
The state of Israel.
Explain that for people who don't understand that, please.
Okay, there was Muslims, Christians, and Jews living in Palestine before all these world wars. Then you got Britain and everybody that wanted to just find a place for the more Jews to go because they didn't want to take them in. We were fine. We have Jews in Palestine. Jerusalem's for everybody. We are not violent, but we have heart. We will defend our land. Okay, they came in there. They just been taking more and more every single year. The increase with the settlements right now after Trump is just, it's like 100%. It's not okay.
It's not about Judaism or religion. Religion's being used as a tool to get what they want, like the Spanish Inquisition, like the Ottoman Empire. It's just going back into history. When you mix religion and politics, you're gonna get a genocide.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's not okay. Gaza's trapped off. They control their electricity. They cut their water off. All their food goes bad. This isn't okay, man. And the Muslim world's responsible. The Muslim world is responsible, man. We have coward leaders as Muslims around this world, man. They're responsible.
The UAE and Saudi have both been bad.
It doesn't matter. The Muslims are not. We are supposed to defend ourselves, okay? The Muslims are supposed to defend. We are not supposed to attack people. We are supposed to defend our people, though. We're supposed to defend all people's rights. Yes. It's not okay what's going on. It's not okay, man. Our kids shouldn't have to live like that.
That's right.
They shouldn't have to live like that, man.
And like you said, it's been too long.
It's been too long.
It's been too long. We're out here with you. We'll fight with you. We
I fight with you guys too, man. I live in DC.
Thank you, brother.
Here for all people. Thank you. God bless you.
Hey, sweetheart.
So we've got a larger group of people up here. Hello, at the State Department. That's interested the State Department. We're gonna go up here and see what's going on. But as much as possible, folks, there's not so many people around. As much as possible, people, we like for people to tell their own story. So whenever we come to a protest and we're in solidarity with other people, if we can find people to talk who are willing to talk, because not everybody is. These are perilous political times. And we want to keep our people safe also. But if we are able to find people from those oppressed groups to tell their story rather than us editorializing all the time, we'd much rather do that. So we really appreciate those Palestinian brothers telling us the truth about what they know, what they experience. So we're gonna go up here and see what's going on at the entrance to the State Department.
If the picture look kind of messed up, it's because I can't see from my side.
Huh?
I can't see what's happening on this side.
Yeah, the picture is okay. Just turn it around that way. Yeah, so we can see people, so people can see what we're walking up on.
Yeah, see, I don't have no reference. I can't see from where I'm at.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, what is going on? Oh, we have to turn this around.
Right, that's what I'm saying. No, I'm talking about turn. Oh, I'm doing all this commentary and we're live.
That's okay.
But the picture's on me. It shouldn't be on
all right. So same thing.
No, I mean, look, free Palestine. You know, look, one of the things that the brother mentioned is the complicity of the Muslim world. Here it is, one of the holiest sites in Islam. One of the holiest sites in Islam, Al-Aqsa Mosque, during the night of the holy month of Ramadan, and on one of the holiest nights in Ramadan, Laylatul Qadr, the night of power. And it's no coincidence that the Zionists attacked during those times, because they know that these are certain times that would really inflame, or at least they're hoping that will inflame the Muslim world when they do these type of attacks like that on these type of days and during this time period. If you can imagine what the brother said when he said that, how would you like if someone came to your house right now, right, and told you that they have your house now, that no matter how long you live there, that this is their house, you got to go, and that they come there not only taking a house, but they come there armed. Like they come there armed, and you don't have any recourse. You can't call the police because the police is on the side of the Zionists. You can't go to the courts because the courts is on the side of the Zionists. And you can't even appeal to the national community because of the influence of the United States. So even though Britain, France, Germany, all the so-called European countries that's supposed to be free and democratic, even though they're all wagging their fingers at Israel and telling they're doing shit. Even though they're wagging their fingers at Israel, time and time again, they don't do anything. Israel could be in violations, as they are, of every international law regarding Palestine, and yet they become more and more bolden, to the point now where you have what they call Jerusalem Day, where you got white Zionist nationalists that are now coming there with the nationalists. Where we heard that from? Where we heard that from? If you think that they're not emboldened by the Trump administration's moving the embassy to Jerusalem, you think that they weren't emboldened by that? It's no different than when Trump told the Proud Boys to what? What he told the Proud Boys.
Stand back and stand by.
That's right. These are cold messages, just like moving the embassy to Jerusalem. All of this stuff is done. It's not lost on these white supremacist Zionists. That those messaging ain't lost on them. So anyway, we also have to remember that Israel has the most right-wing government that they have had in their history. Where in the last election, everybody was competing on who could be worse to the Palestinians.
Right. And
look who we got.
Sean Blackman.
Sean Blackman. All right.
How you doing?
Sean, we just just giving a brief history from what we heard, and we're live on Black Power Media.
Oh, okay.
So so please, just I know you're very well versed in this. What's going on, man?
I mean, well, why we're out here today is because of the ongoing profound racist violence and really colonial violence that's been happening inside Palestine lately. And of course, I mean, I say lately, I'm talking in terms of the most recent incident stemming from the raid of the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood. But we know that the very existence of Israel is rooted and steeped in this kind of violence. And we should also be clear, that the United States and Israel are two sides of the same settler colonial coin. They both emerge out of institutions of genocide against indigenous people and things like this. And the U.S. government supports Israel to the tune of $3 to $4 billion every year. It's interesting. I was actually just listening to a commentary from Mumi Abu Jamal, was talking about Palestine from 2014. And he was talking about the value, basically what does Palestine mean to the U.S.?
Right.
And he was saying that the U.S. doesn't harbor some hatred for Palestine. It doesn't have some ideological difference towards Palestine. It's the fact that the plight of Palestine and Palestinians is incidental because it needs Israel to serve as an outpost of U.S. hegemony in the Middle East. You see what I mean? And so there's a connection between the American people and the Palestinians in a couple of ways. We know that there are these exchange programs between American cops and the Israeli forces. And so, the suppression tactics that Israel uses against the Palestinians, they train U.S. cops to do here. I mean, matter of fact, when I first moved to D.C., the police chief was a woman named Kathy Lanier, and she's talked about how, visiting Israel was one of the defining moments of her life.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? And so it's pretty deep. And there's even a connection in terms of the violence that's happening in Colombia right now as well.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because one of the main agencies, the main institution that's carrying out violence in Colombia is called the ESMAD. I believe it translates to the mobile anti-disturbance unit or something, but basically like a SWAT team.
Right.
Well, the Pentagon trains ESMAD.
Oh, wow.
And so in the same way that U.S. police agencies suppress protests right here in the U.S., just like they did last summer during the rebellion against racism concerning the racist police killing of George Floyd, these are the same elements that are training those units to suppress protests under the neoliberal government of Ivan Duque in Colombia right now. So we see that militarized police terror in the U.S. and Israel and Colombia is all connected.
Right,
why?
right,
because at the root of it is U.S. imperialism. And so that's why it's important that we have an anti-imperialist and international perspective when we talk about suppression.
So Sean, let me ask you a question. If you had Joe Biden's ear right now, what would you tell him about, what would you say to him?
I mean, I'm not sure there's anything I could say because, both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have a long history of supporting Israel. I mean, like any mainstream Democrat, you can't reach that height of the Democrat Party if you're not all in with Israel and with Zionism and with, the Israel lobby and groups like AIPAC and things like that. And what we have to look out for, are even people, even black people or people who may call themselves progressive who do that as well. I mean, we know that Bakari Sellers, for instance, is a shill for APEC.
That's right.
So trying to make apartheid and genocide appealing to black people.
Right.
And actually, I saw Dr. Sharice Burton-Stelly talked about this. I don't know if it was this morning or sometime this week, about how we're seeing this on HBCU campuses as well. And that's true, because I know at FAMU, my alma mater, they have like a student liaison to APEC. And so that's very dangerous.
Right.
That's very dangerous. And so that's why it's important, I think, particularly as black people, who understand the history of Black Palestinian solidarity, that we highlight these things and continue to be at actions like this and to do that political education so that, you know, the next generations have the proper perspective and the proper politics, so they're not sucked into that liberal imperialist machine that'll ultimately have them working against their own interests.
And Sean, we also know that not everybody understands the connection between what we're going through as black people, African-American people here, and its connection to what's going on in Palestine and other places in the world. We can't always assume that people understand the connections. Could you, briefly explain why this is important to us as African-Americans, why this matters to us, or it should matter to us?
Yeah, and even as you were describing that, I was also thinking about like the End SARS protests in Nigeria, or the protests in Haiti against the neo-colonial dictatorship of Jovenel Moise. The reason why black folks need to be concerned about what's happening in Palestine, Colombia, Haiti, Nigeria, and all these different places is because the same institutions and the same system, the same white supremacist capitalist system that oppresses us here in the United States, that made our ancestors slaves, is carrying out this violence across the world. And so standing in solidarity with those movements should be part and parcel of how we fight for our own.
That's right. Well, Sean, we thank you, man. I see that everybody's marching right now.
Yeah.
So we're going to join that, and hopefully, man, we get some more commentary from you later on.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right,
appreciate
peace.
Y'all got jerseys?
Yes, we got jerseys.
Nice.
Brother Lufman treated us to some protest attire.
Oh, nice.
Hey, Paul.
All right.
Who's that?
Good seeing you.
All right, you too.
Oh, Paul Pumphrey. All the right people are always in the right place.
Here, that's right.
Hey, Brother Paul Pumphrey.
How are you?
Hey, brother, what's going on, brother?
So good to see you. As you can see, people are on the move. We just happened to see Paul Pumphrey on the move. Paul, why are you out here today?
Let me share with you. In 1995, I had the opportunity not only to go to Israel, but to go to the Gaza Strip. And I can tell you from my own experience, I had never seen so many violations of human rights as I saw in Palestine and in Israel. I'll give you an example. I went to several different mosques. The mosques were over 100 years old, in which the Israelis set up synagogues inside the mosque.
Wow.
Okay. And once they did that, the army and the police then body searched everybody before they could go pray.
Wow.
If people can remember, there was a time which a guy who was a doctor, Israeli doctor, shot up a mosque.
I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why he was in the mosque was because he went in to supposedly see the synagogue. And that particular mosque was where the tomb of David was resting.
And this is the guy that the Zionists praise to this day. Like he's their hero.
Right.
He's a folk hero.
Yeah, he's a folk hero to them. Yeah.
There you go. Okay. But you have to ask yourself a question. How is it
Right.
that somebody of a totally different religion has the right to set up their institution of religion inside your already existing place of worship, and then have the government sanction that ability to do that?
Wow. It's just like the whole settler colonial mentality.
Yes,
You know?
I mean, obviously, they're doing things to create a situation where people are going to react to it.
Well, that's what we were just talking to, Paul. We were talking about how the days that they pick, like during Ramadan, Laylatul Qadr, which is the Zahir Power, and all those other things, because they're trying to get this major reaction. And it's just like attacking Muslims on Juma. You know.
Another example. They would set up a settlement inside of Palestinian territory, and then run a road from the Israeli part of Jerusalem out to the settlement.
Right.
And then said no one can cross the road. So you may have a farm that's 50 yards away from your house.
Hey,
But you would have to
walk so we
travel.
catch up with them.
You would have to travel 15 or 20 miles because you would have to completely go around the road.
Oh yeah.
To get to your farm.
Oh my goodness.
And so obviously it caused a great deal of problems with people being able to work their farms.
Right.
Which then caused an economic problem to the family that had the farm.
Right.
As well as the fact that you had to spend a whole lot more time on the road getting to and from the farm.
Well, yeah, I mean,
even work their own farm.
I mean, you hear some reports. You hear some reports saying how, you know, just to get through a checkpoint, you know, could take hours. You know, I mean, that's you know, and it's kind of hard for us, even though we ain't completely free over here, but it's kind of hard for us to imagine those type of daily humilities and indignities every day on your own land. You know, here you got people coming from Brooklyn who ain't never set foot in Israel coming there talking about they're going to take you home.
Correct. And this is something in the question we have to ask as people living in the United States who pay taxes in the United States. Why is the United States using our tax dollars?
Right, exactly.
Okay, to aid and abet such human rights violations.
Right.
That's something we need to begin to say no to.
Yeah, don't, you know, they don't ask our permission, unfortunately. You know, how to spend our tax dollars. You know, the fact that, you know, they just take that, you know, we can never spend our tax dollars on things that people need.
Correct. And then you look at the fact that when we look at some of the crazy tactics that the U.S. police force uses in the United States against Black people, they learned those tactics in Israel.
Right, right. We were just talking about that.
Because many of the U.S. police departments get federal funding to pay the Israelis to teach them the inhumane tactics that they use against the Palestinians. And then we act like we're surprised when they use those same inhumane tactics. Like kneeling on someone's neck is a tactic that's used in Israel all the time against Palestinian demonstrators. So why should we be surprised what happened with George Floyd, when in fact our tax dollars paid for the police department to be trained on how to use that tactic?
Well, you're right about that. If another thing that people can look at as an example of Israeli police training is if you ever go through DC or any city and you see cops that just constantly got their lights flashing, and they just posted up, that is an Israeli occupation tactic that they learned from Israel.
Letting you know that they're occupying your neighborhood.
Exactly. All right, this Black Power Media, y'all. We're live.
Yeah, we're walking up Constitution Avenue, kind of at the back of the protest now. We're going to catch up a little bit. We don't know where. Actually, we don't know where they're going to end up, but we're going to.
I think they said something about going to the White House.
Oh, good.
You're going where?
I think they said something about going to the White House.
Okay.
Good. Wonderful. I'm so good with it.
As close as we can get to it.
Yeah. We're probably going to 17th Street.
Yeah. Don't forget to subscribe, to like. Come on, Jackie, do the housekeeping.
Oh, sorry, housekeeping. Hit the like button, subscribe, share this video, invite your friends. Let your friends know about the struggle that is going on in the United States for people in solidarity with the people of Palestine.
And it's not an isolated struggle. It's just not Palestine.
All of us are not silent.
Yep.
Hello. Oh, I like overheard. Oh, thank you. We're sincere. We mean it. Thank you so much. So what you're watching. Oh yeah, here we go. Sorry about that. I think we got disconnected a little bit.
Probably went to a dead spot.
Yeah, possibly. But what you see, are people who.
I can't let Paul Humphrey get too much ahead of us.
I know. But what you see, the people we talk to are people who have dedicated their lives to struggle. This is what we do. Yeah, Sean and I do this for a living. You saw Baba talking to my co-host, well, the host of By Any Means Necessary, where I'm the co-host. It's what we do for a living, but not many of us are fortunate enough to say that we can do our passion for a living. So before we were getting paid to do this, we were doing this because it was the right thing to do. We were active, we were activists, we were agitating, we were in the streets, we were organizing, we were engaging in advancing political education. This is what we do. So it's not a surprise that we see the same people here. Paul Humphrey, member of Friends of the Congo.
Black Alliance for Peace.
Black Alliance for Peace. We're members of Black Alliance for Peace. People who we rely on for our political education. It's not a surprise that they're out here, because these are the people who educated us. So, and I'm really glad that the young Palestinian brother raised the point that he did about this not being a Jewish issue
or a religious
issue.
Right.
This is a human rights issue. So we can't get distracted, y'all.
Look like we might catch up. Look like you got a little pause there.
We can't get distracted, folks, with these conversations about who's a real Jew, who's not a real Jew, Ashkenazis, and
well, let's put it this way. The black Hebrew Israelites, they got 60 days to leave Israel.
Yeah.
And now, I don't get into the debate whether who's real Jew, who not, but they're here to Judaism. Israel is supposed to be the home for Jews, right? Or at least that's the way they wanted to set up. Why these Jews can't stay?
And why do they treat the Palestinian Jews as terribly as Palestinian Muslims, as Palestinian Christians? So when you answer those questions, you realize it's not about Judaism at all. It's about settler colonialism. It's about white supremacy.
And if you want to be more specific, liberation.
Right. And that's why we're out here. We're out here for liberation because of the white supremacy and the settler colonialism that the Israeli government and its supporters, backed by the US, is subjecting the Palestinian people to. So we're going to catch up. We have to stop here at this light.
And let's be clear. According to the UN Charter of the so-called two-state solution, we know that's a joke. There's no land for a Palestinian state. They took it all.
They've taken it all. They came out of the UN partition vote with the majority of the land in the first place.
And they are still
some backdoor deal.
And they're still settling on the land illegally.
Want to try to go this way?
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you who are not as well versed in the history understand that as the brother said earlier, Palestinians didn't want to not share their land with European Jews who were coming, escaping the Holocaust.
But there was always
never the issue.
The Jews always lived there.
Exactly.
There was always Jews there.
There were always Jews there. There were Jews, Christians, Muslims, Arabs, all folks living there. The problem was that the political wing, the political Zionism, the political expression of what they want to claim is Judaism, but is not, wanted all of the land. So the United States strong-armed a bunch of countries in the United Nations.
And how about, for those who don't know, Haiti was the deciding vote?
Because the United States strong-armed Haiti threatened to withdraw humanitarian aid, financial assistance, IMF loans, if Haiti did not vote for the 1948 partition, which gave the state of Israel a majority control of Palestine, more than 50%.
So that lets you know that even during the time of the so-called establishment of the state of Israel, the most of the world didn't want it.
Exactly. Understand that the UN partition vote, it wasn't one vote. There were several votes. And for the first couple of votes, almost every country voted against the partition until the United States, under who was it? Was it Harry Truman?
Under Truman.
Under Truman. Got his Secretary of State. Strong-armed a bunch of those world leaders to vote for that partition, or else the United States would cut that pipeline
And
off.
how about it wasn't for the love of any Jews? Because because when Hitler was persecuting Jews and the Jews came here for refuge, the United States turned them down. They refused to let them in.
Exactly. And how did they do that? They used immigration laws.
Yep.
The United States was a bastion of anti-Semitism. If you look at Hollywood, some of the movies from the 40s, 30s, a lot of those people were Jews, but they had to hide their Judaism because of the hatred of Jews in the United States, in Hollywood.
Well, here's a fun fact. A lot of the Jewish songwriters that wrote your favorite Christmas songs, like I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas and all the others, they wrote those songs, you know why? Because they wanted to assimilate in what they thought, what they considered a Christian society.
Right.
So it was a way of abandoning their Jewishness in order to be more Christian-like.
And think about it. If you're not oppressed, if you're not shunned in a society, why do you need to hide the thing that defines who you are?
Exactly.
So the United States twisting the arms of these countries to vote for the establishment of the state of Israel, literally on the backs and the bones of the Palestinian people. It wasn't because they loved the Jews. It was because they needed an entity to be their bulwark in the Middle East.
Hey, I'm a devil's advocate.
Uh-oh.
I hear what you're saying, Jackie. You know, but we got our own struggles over here, right? And after all, I'm a descendant of slaves. And I don't have no business, trying to support somebody else. So what do you say to that?
Well, like I'm sure you heard Sean Blackman say, this struggle is about human rights and the liberation of all oppressed people from the same system that perpetuated our enslavement and abuse. The same system. When we look at the way the police treat us here today, when we look at the way the police treat us here today, you need to understand that a lot of these cops are trained by the Israeli Defense Force.
Yep.
And the things they do to us, they've been practicing on the Palestinians. They've perfected it. A lot of the weapons that are turned against the Palestinian people, while they're praying in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, come from the United States. Your tax dollars go to fund the oppression of other people.
And these American politicians will have you believe that, you know, oh, this is a David versus Goliath thing.
No, this is not a David versus Goliath thing. This isn't a conflict. The U.S. media will call what happened, especially this weekend, a conflict or a clash. A conflict is if someone the same size as me, with the same strength as me, get into a street fight, we rolling around.
Right.
What's going on in Palestine is not a conflict. It's an annihilation.
Right.
People are mixing up who David and Goliath are. They think that Israel is the David and that Palestine is the Goliath. When what's really true is that Israel is the fucking devil.
And then you look at the way that the American media, right? Then you look at the way that the American media has portrayed this. The first thing you hear in any reporting is, oh, there's rockets being fired from Gaza. As if that's the provocation.
Well, let's talk about rockets. Let's talk about rockets. Because people always want to bring up Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, PLO, and they always want to call them militants. First of all, if you come to my home, break into my home, tell me that I don't own my home anymore, that it belongs to you, trust me, the fight you are going to get from me is going to make the word militant look like we were talking about Sesame Street.
Right.
So this smearing people who are defending their homes, their rights, their land from settler colonists and invaders and thieves, that's a typical imperialist tactic.
Right.
To blame the victim for their oppression.
Right.
Second, let's talk about rockets. That's all Hamas has. They have some rockets that are very short range. They don't have a lot of them. They're not very powerful because, I mean, nothing gets imported into Gaza.
Well, then,
Israel is
well, you got the American given Iron Dome that nobody else has.
And let's talk about the David and Goliath part of this. People are always talking about, well, Hamas has shot rockets at Israel, but Israel has warplanes provided by the United States. Israel has bombs provided by the United States. Israel has anti-aircraft missiles. Israel has nuclear weapons that it never wants to admit they have, but we know the United States secretly helped them acquire.
And the French.
They want those missiles to fly over because it gives them a right to go
exactly.
Gaza back into the stone.
Exactly.
So
they can say, "Oh, they're bombing us."
They're bombing us. And I tell you, the main.
It started with the aggressive settlers,
right?
And then
but then a nation that has a history of taking land itself.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
So when we talk about these issues of David and Goliath and Israel is defending itself, you know what? If I don't break into your house and try to steal your shit, I'll have to defend myself against you.
And that's the thing that gets me. It's that nobody who supports this outside of Israel or in Israel would allow that to happen to them. You think Mitch McConnell would leave his house if somebody came in there and said, "Hey, Mitch, you don't live here no more"?
It is.
I was over there but I was over there for a job, and these people were giving a tour by the Zionist tour guide, and she said this crazy shit like, well, when Israel was formed, we offered the Arabs to go to Jordan or to go to
ain't that nice?
Because they speak their language and
isn't that nice?
With the culture.
Isn't that nice? You kick these people off their land.
Right.
And everyone on the bus is like, oh yeah, I wanted to say to some of these guys, this guy from Chicago is nodding his head. I'm like, if they told you that you had to move to Canada because they speak your language, right. Take your house. Right. Would you fight or would you just go because
Well, let me ask you a question. There's another narrative that is always told that Yasser Arafat, may rest in power, was so he got the best deal that he was ever going to get, and so it's the Palestinians blew it.
Yeah, they say that every time.
Right.
And the deal they get is crumbs. That Clinton deal I was there in '92 and again in '94, and they just jammed it down the Palestinians' throats.
Wow.
They forced them. Anyway, Jackie, I wanted to say hi. I'm Jim Saw. Was in the punk scene forever back in the day.
What's your name again?
Jim Saw.
Get the hell out of here.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Oh my God.
You guys are witnessing a piece of DC history right now.
Yeah, so I was hoping that nobody from the punk scene would ever recognize me, but I guess I haven't been able to escape that.
When you first got off on By Any Means Necessary, you talked about it at the beginning.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
I know her.
Oh my God, man.
Fred Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You heard what terrible thing was.
Oh, I did, yeah.
Wow,
I
that's
did that
beautiful.
movie with a friend, Salad Days, about the DC.
Yeah.
We interviewed Fred. You know.
Yeah, wow. Oh my gosh, this world this world never stops reminding you how small we are and how interconnected we all are.
So where are we at now?
So where are we? In front of, what is this?
It's the Red Cross.
The Red Cross building. Where are we going? I'm not sure.
Somebody told me the White House. I don't know.
How's it going? That's
Yeah.
Well, nice seeing you guys.
Oh,
I'll
nice
catch up with my
seeing you.
people.
Hey, thank you.
Listen to you on the radio.
All right, thanks a lot.
We got a book coming out of DC Punk Rock stuff.
Oh, sweet.
You should look around.
Oh yeah, definitely will. Thanks.
Well, you know it's bad when you get the punks out of retirement. You know, people don't realize the political nature of the punk scene, Jackie.
Man.
That you told, you know, that was really part of DC culture.
Being in the punk scene here in DC was part of where I got a lot of my politicization. Because I entered the scene during the Reagan years, and hard to breathe with this thing on.
That's why I took mine off.
No,
no social distance.
Yeah. We're fully vaccinated. You know.
Right.
So. Yeah,
sorry, Kalanji.
So yeah, the punk scene was very political here in DC. Reagan was president. Economic inequality was growing. So there were a lot of protests that punk bands put on. Like there was this whole resistance summer that revolved around ending apartheid. And then there was a big concert in the middle of the winter in front of the White House that was huge. That was a big part of my political kind of coming of age and maturing. You know, my ex, rest in peace, Fred Smith, we spent a lot of our Saturdays protesting in front of the South African embassy. Beat the drums and pissing the folks inside the embassy off.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah. So the punk scene here in DC was very, very responsible for a significant part of my politicization. Politicization?
Politicization, they know what you mean. All of you sticklers for language out there, y'all know what you mean. Yep. Hey, look, so it seemed like we're heading to so I guess we're stopping here.
Yep. This is the old executive office building. This is actually like the office where all of the executive members
I want to get the crowd in the back.
Go to work, yeah. So here, over here, is the old executive office building. This is where a lot of the executives from the White House and all the staff, the executive staff that's not actually in the White House, they work here.
Wow. Well, we had a brief stop We still don't know where the destination is going to be. There's different different rumors. Some say the White House. Some say, I know it's not the Lincoln Memorial. That's back that way.
Yeah. So you can get up on the sidewalk?
Yeah. Never underestimate the will of a people to be free.
Never.
Underestimate. Let me get up on the step. All right. All right, so it looks like we're moving again. You're watching Black Power Media.
Baba and Jackie Lutheran in Washington, D.C. Here with the Free Palestine mobilization in support of ending Palestine oppression in solidarity with saving the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood and freedom and liberation for the Palestinians.
So what are we walking in front of now?
This is still the old executive office.
You know, I asked Sean Blackman that if he had Joe Biden's ear, what would he tell him? And I like what was said, but it's true. He said it's nothing I could say because this government is so in deep with the Zionist lobbies. You can't, and one of the things that he said is so true. You can't rise to president of the United States without an endorsement from the Zionist lobby, from the Zionists.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's stop right here for a second. Let's make something clear. You know, we had a lot of black progressive politicians win seats in the Senate. A lot of so-called progressive politicians talking good stuff about supporting Palestine, but you don't win major political races in this country at this time in this climate without throwing Palestine under the bus.
Exactly.
Because what has Raphael Warnock said about Palestine? Nothing. Well, what's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said about it? What's Kamala Harris said about it? You know, what are all of these, Jamal Bowman, you know, what have all these black faces in high places said about Palestine? They haven't said anything. Because if they want to win their seat, their job, and keep their job, they have to throw Palestine and black people, poor working class black people out here in the streets, struggling against the exact same system, under the bus.
Yes.
Understand, that's another way that we are connected with the Palestinians. No politician in this country at this moment will stand in solidarity with Palestinians.
Do you see him out here?
And with working class, poor, and oppressed black folks in this country.
There's not a politician out here now.
Not a politician out here now.
There's not mainstream media out here.
Nope. No. That they're going to do with this mobilization exactly like they've been doing with the genocide and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. They're going to ignore it. That is why we are out here. And we need to get rid of this idea that because we're Africans or because we're some new tribe, we don't have anything to do with these people. The people in power see us all exactly the same. We're expendable, disposable people to them.
We are one people under one sun.
Say that again.
We are one people on one planet under one sun.
That's right. So we Lufons are under no illusions about who we are in solidarity with and why. And we understand that even among other groups of oppressed people, there are anti-black sentiments that people have to deal with. Because remember, we're all indoctrinated by the same white supremacist ideology.
Yep.
So yeah, some Palestinian people have to deal with that, just like some Asian people do, just like some gay people do. Can we be honest, just like some black folks do?
Yep. But I gotta say, we haven't ran into the anti-blackness down here.
We haven't. Every Palestinian brother and sister out here has been glad to see black folks in solidarity with them.
Oh, and let's not forget that it was the Palestinians who hipped us on how to deal with the tear gas and stuff out there during the Ferguson Rebellion.
Say that again.
Yup, during the Ferguson Rebellion, when the cops came at us with the tear gas stuff, it was Palestinian resistors who told us how to deal with that.
Exactly. So all this stuff about, they don't care about us, these people understand that our struggle is connected. They've been struggling with us for longer than a lot of us know. You know why? Because we like to listen to the same people to entertain us, but we don't actually want to learn about the actual struggle. So, look, this is a long fight. We are up against an enormous beast. White supremacy, settler colonialism, U.S. imperialism is a monster. It is global, it is worldwide. We may not win this fight today, but we will win this fight. That's why they're being extra repressive, because they know their time is ending. So we just got to continue fighting. And we're going to be out here for a little while. Listen, share this video, like, subscribe, join Black Power Media. And thanks so much for joining, y'all.
Check us out on the remix tomorrow.
Check us out on the remix morning show tomorrow. We're going to talk about the history of the creation of the State of Israel on Dope Friday Date Night on Friday. We're going to talk about that so you can be educated on how it really happened and why all of that matters, because it does. So thanks a lot, y'all. Peace.